Hello everyone and welcome to this presentation about burnout in journalists. Information professionals have been identified as a high-risk sector for health problems derived from work stress and burnout. The profession has suffered dizzying changes in the last decades. Consequently, these have produced drastic cuts in the workforce, as well as an overload in the quantity and variety of tasks which require constant updating with new technologies by the remaining personnel. Initial research in this field was focused on the post-traumatic stress symptomatology suffered by war correspondents. However, these dramatic situations are no longer representative of the typical activity of such professionals. Psychosocial factors should be understood as those that are present in a certain work environment, interacting between the person and the working conditions, and that correspond to the content and the compliance of the task and the organization itself. These factors may become risks when they trigger maladjustment or psychophysiological stress responses. The list of factors that may become risks is quite extensive. First of all, we have organizational, such as hierarchy, resource management, supervision, leadership, and working environment. Secondly, we have employment conditions, such as stability, rotation, and use of skills. Thirdly, we have the task, with mental and physical load and control possibility. Finally, we have the relations with managers, colleagues, or clients. Journalists, due to continuous changes in formats, technology, instability at work, or living their career in a vocational way, can take on a wide variety of responsibilities. All the while, the times are marked by the current climate of accepting long and changeable schedules. Overload doesn't seem to be the only variable that explains the wear in this profession. The psychosocial factors can vary according to the type of media, newspaper, radio, or television. In an environment where change in reality and immediacy predominate, it was to be expected that the variable possibility of control over the task had a bigger predicted power of stress. The interpersonal relations between workers, partners, and managers could become both a protective factor but a cause of stress too, and gain special importance in critical situations. A central aspect in different professions is recognition, which is the feedback that is necessary but difficult to obtain, and even more so in an environment ruled by immediacy. In addition, a work-life area that gains importance is the relative congruence or incongruence between personal principles and those of the organization, not counting the fact that they must show or spread contents independently of their opinion, sometimes far from their ideologies, and that could arouse criticism or rejection in an audience that is in constant interaction. The concept of burnout has generated controversy for decades. Some authors have considered it a complex syndrome composed of the dimensions of emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and personal accomplishment. This chronic condition has dramatic consequences for employees' health, such as depression, anxiety, and immunological problems, as well as adverse effects for the companies, for example, absenteeism or job abandonment. Leiter and Maslach offered a model based on the areas of work life, which could contribute to burnout experience. Surveys from the areas of work-life model show that it explains a significant percentage of the burnout variance and is considered an optimal instrument to evaluate psychosocial risk factors before designing future interventions. The objective of this research was to describe and analyze the main factors involved in the appearance of burnout in communication professionals, in order to design intervention programs in the media to establish a permanent preventive culture. With regard to the method, this analysis of psychosocial factors in the media is part of a wider study. The data were used to design and implement a model of prevention based on the clarification of the company's values, the implementation of a transparent justice system, and the distribution of rewards. There was a total of 292 professionals that were considered, of which 145 were males, which represent 45.7%, and 147 were females, which represent 50.3%. The mean age was 43.45 years. With regard to the instruments, we have the demographic and labor data sheet. The following variables were collected: socio-demographic variables such as gender and age, and also work variables, for example, working time in the field of information, work contract type, media type, and profession. We also had the Maslach Burnout Inventory. It provides information about the three dimensions that constitute their theoretical model of burnout: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and personal accomplishment. We also had the areas of work-life scale. It evaluates the degree of fit or mismatch that the professional perceives about the main variables of their work area environment. Those areas are manageable workload, possibility of control over the tasks, existence of intrinsic rewards, sense of community, fairness, and concordance between own values and those of the organization. And finally, we had the General Health Questionnaire, which values general aspects of cognitive function and psychological symptoms. Emotional exhaustion shows a direct correlation with the other two burnout dimensions, also with health perception, and an inverse correlation with the workload, control, rewards, community, fairness, and values. Linear regression model showed that with respect to dimension of emotional exhaustion, workload, rewards, values, and community were shown as inverse coefficient predictors. Rewards and community were inverse coefficients of the depersonalization predictors. And congruence values, rewards, community, and manageable load were shown to be inverse personal accomplishment coefficients predictors. In terms of the different types of media, newspaper, radio, TV, institutional press, significant differences were found relating to the following variables: PA, control, rewards, community, fairness, and values. The institutional press workers showed significantly higher scores in control, rewards, community, justice, and values, and lower scores in PA compared to newspapers, radio, or TV workers, although there were no significant differences comparing workload among the different types of media. Our study showed that the higher the manageable load index is, the lower is the level of EE. Other areas also contributed to depletion levels, namely, as the congruence of values increases, exhaustion levels decrease in a statistically significant relationship. The incongruence between own values and those of the company can erode the worker on a psychological level, not through physical overexertion, but emotionally and on a daily basis. This phenomenon is common among professions with a strong vocational character, where there may be a continuous clash between the ideals that initially guided the person towards that activity and the obligation to carry out different activities, particularly those contrary to his or her personal ideals. The results confirm a sequential model of burnout, in which workload indices contribute to the EE, and this, in turn, to the DP and PA. However, as it has been shown in several studies, other working life areas can increase or also moderate these burnout levels, leading to what has been called a double process of burnout. It was found that in addition to workload, as both the index of intrinsic rewards of work and the levels in community decrease, the levels of EE increase. This increase in interpersonal conflict and decrease in rewards also contributed to an increase in the sense of depersonalization, and these same variables, together with low levels of value congruence, generally contribute to a significant decrease in lack of personal accomplishment. The differences found among different types of media, both in the dimensions of burnout and in the areas that contribute to those values, were statistically significant in the personal accomplishment dimension. Although all of them endured similar workload levels, this did not occur in the areas of control, rewards, community, fairness, and values between the institutional press and the rest of the media. In discussions with professionals, explanations were given to the fact that journalists begin their careers with ambitions that are not of an economic nature, but with an ideal of telling the truth, contributing to information, change, and perceiving that their work has meaning. Over the years, many have the feeling of telling irrelevant stories, or they even write or broadcast content contrary to their convictions or vision of reality. It is complex to design an intervention program that reduces workload levels and encourages the distribution of rewards or establishes a fair and transparent rules system. It would be even more difficult trying to match a company's values with those of its employees. For this reason, the preventive program focuses not so much on changing some objectives or goals, but on making them clear and manifest so that each person is aware and can choose between supporting them or abandoning them. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you want more information, you can write me on this email. Thank you very much.